In recent interviews, Ringo Starr, the beloved Beatles drummer, has talked candidly about the less harmonious aspects of the Fab Four. Ringo illuminates the inner turmoil and disputes that could lead to the band's dissolution. Although the Beatles' music delighted millions of people, their actual relationships were everything but idyllic. According to Ringo's reports, the band members experienced rifts ranging from furious clashes in the studio to instances of profound estrangement as a result of creative disagreements, personal egos, and the constant pressure of fame. The difficulties of being a member of the most well-known band in the world are revealed by Ringo's anecdotes. I felt alienated in my own band. When Ringo Starr finally made the decision to speak out, it shocked many to hear about the internal conflicts that almost destroyed the iconic group. Let's go back to July 1940, when Ringo Starr was born Richard Stamey in Liverpool. Ringo confesses, highlighting the loneliness and frustration he frequently experienced. Little Richard's life in England wasn't easy. He was an only child who was loved by his mother, but was mainly left behind when his father left when he was just 4. To make ends meet, his mother worked many jobs, first as a cleaner and then as a bartender. Richard had severe health problems as a child. He suffered an appendectomy at age 6 that resulted in peritonitis, which sent him to a children's hospital for a year. This setback caused him to fall behind in school, and as he was getting back on track with the aid of a tutor, tuberculosis struck again, keeping him out of school for 2 years in a sanatorium. However, in the middle of the long, dull days, something amazing occurred, and the staff encouraged the children to start a band to cheer themselves up. When Richard finally returned home in 1955, school was no longer an option. Instead, he took on a variety of jobs, one of which introduced him to skiffle music, a genre played with improvised instruments that fascinated Richard. A few years later, Richard joined Rory Storm and the Hurricane, a proper band with real instruments. Inspired by his love of country and Western music and his penchant for wearing rings, his drum solos, dubbed Star Time, became a highlight. In 1953, Richard discovered percussion-making rhythms with a wooden mallet on the cabinets next to his bed. This was the beginning of his lifelong passion for drumming. As the Hurricanes became well-known, Ringo met John Lennon and the Beatles, a new band, while they were touring in Hamburg. McCartney, Paul George Harrison, Stu Sutcliffe, and Pete Best met in October 1960. This marked the start of the band's illustrious musical journey. In 1962, Ringo Starr joined the Beatles, replacing Pete Best. The fans weren't happy about the change at first. They even gave Ringo a black eye during their first performance at Liverpool's Cavern Club. However, over time, fans warmed up to Ringo, and he quickly became a cherished member of the band. But winning over the fans was just one challenge. Martin, George the Beatles' producer at EMI, wasn't immediately convinced of Ringo's drumming abilities for their first singles. Martin brought in a session drummer and had Ringo play tambourine and maracas instead, but Ringo was afraid he might be expelled from the band before he had really gotten started. Fortunately, things quickly clicked, and Ringo's place in the group was solidified. Their big break came with the song Please Please Man, which made the Beatles pop sensations in England. Their first album, Please Please Me, elevated the whirlwind to a whole new level. In an interview with Dan Rather for AXS, Ringo had his chance to shine by performing a lad vocal on the track Guys. Although it wasn't always sunshine and rainbows with the Fab Four, Ringo Starr, now 83, was candid about the ups and downs within the band and didn't hold back when sharing the details of how Paul McCartney, now 81, was the main driver of their output. No, we didn't get along, we were 4 guys. Ringo recalled how their frequent arguments never affected the music. No matter how awful the row was, once the count-in was over, we all gave it our all. And that was a little later too, which I believe was a natural thing. Ringo also stressed that despite the drama and arguments, they were always able to set aside their differences and give their best performances, while John Lennon and Paul McCartney were praised for their brilliant songwriting. The contributions of Ringo Starr, who is well recognized for his strong drumming, frequently went unnoticed. Ringo was an integral part of the Fab Four. Although he may not have written as many hits, he always had a spot on each album singing one song and contributing his distinctive drumming style, which became a hallmark of the Beatles' sound and inspired countless drummers who followed in 1966. Ringo also played a crucial role in the band's creative process and was the glue that kept their spirits high and the atmosphere light, unlike other bands where drummers stayed in the background. The Beatles decided to stop touring wrapping up with a final concert at San Francisco's Candlestick Park in August. From then on, They focused on recording, pushing their music into new and experimental directions. They created the groundbreaking Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band in 1967, a concept album designed to be experienced from start to finish in 1968. They released the Beatles, better known as the White Album, where Ringo shined with his song, Don't Pass Me By. However, during the White Album sessions, tensions rose. Each member began to feel isolated, suspecting that the others were forming tighter bonds without him, feeling increasingly sidelined. Especially when Paul McCartney recorded, Why Don't We Do It in the Road solo. Ringo decided to leave the band, making him the first member to do so. His departure was a wake-up call for the others, realizing how essential he was. They sent him telegrams proclaiming him the best drummer in the world. When Ringo returned to the studio, he was greeted with a heartwarming surprise, his drum kit covered in roses spelling out "Welcome back." In his reflection on McCartney's influence, Ringo said, "All right, lads, and we've got lives and I've got kids. The effort we put in was starting to pale a little, and we always thank Paul to this day." He credited McCartney's workaholic nature for the band's success because of Paul, who was our band's workaholic. "We made a lot more records than John and I would have made, and then Paul would call, all right, and we'd go in." He also expressed gratitude for the band's unique bond, which helped keep their egos in check. "I believe that it's all a part of our origins. I always give credit to the fact that there were 4 of us from the same city, and we would look at each other. If one of us was being cocky or freaking out, the other 3 would pardon me, which kept us on course." The Beatles became the best-selling band of all time with the publication of 12 studio albums between 1963 and 1970. Yet their tale was not without tragedy. George Harrison died of cancer on November 29, 2001, at the age of 58, and John Lennon was tragically shot outside his apartment on December 8, 1980, at the age of 40. Their open examination of their relationship adds another level of complexity to the dynamics that drove the Beatles' music, while also causing personal rifts. Although Ringo has shared a few tales from his Beatles days, you have to wonder if there is still more turmoil out there.